Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quantum Witch Cafe, your place to talk about anything paranormal, UFO, spirituality, fringe, anything, all of it goes, especially the UFO stuff. I want to give a quick thank you to anybody listening on YouTube or on that UFO podcast website. If you're a new follower, thank you so much for joining. And if you've been supporting for a while, I appreciate you as well. Please remember to like and subscribe and all that stuff. Tonight we have Savita the Starseed. She has her own channel, but as you can see in the name, she talks about starseeds and other things. But I'll let her kind of tell you about that. So Savi, do you want to tell everybody who you are, what your channel's about, and why you started it?
Sure. Well, hello to the Quantum Witch community, and thank you, Pricilla, for having me here today. My name is Savita the Starseed is my YouTube channel name, and for my channel, it's fairly new and starting, but it's going to pertain to as much information as possible about starseeds, where they come from, the traits, the signs if you are one, what resonates with you, etc. And there will be tons of information to come, especially with what we have planned for tonight. It's going to dive into quite a bit of information with everything. So thank you for having me here, and hello everybody. And I'm excited. Let's run deep.
Okay, so yeah, this is going to be a very out there show for anybody tuning in that's nuts and bolts. And it kind of makes me smile because sometimes you need to hear some weirdness in your life, and we're here to give that to you tonight. So, I'm going to say hi to people in the chat too, because we have people showing up now. We have Diesel Girl, said she may or may not be here. Lily's here. She's another really cool starseed. Benji, the starseed. We have Brandy, Paranormal Pixie. And thank you so much, everybody, for hopping in tonight.
Hi, everybody.
Say hi to Savi.
So, this is so cool.
So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, why did you decide to start talking about starseeds? You are a brainiac. You're an engineer. You're just like an all-around badass female. So what on earth was like saying, I need to talk about awakening as a starseed? And what is a starseed? Let's start with that for people that are like, wait, what? What's a what?
Yeah, right? Especially for those that are just now joining your community and they're like, what the H is a star? What? I literally, so for my YouTube channel, I literally just call it an alien soul. Just those two words. It's the best way to explain it. And when I say alien, and I'm sure when you say alien, when the majority of us say alien, we're not talking about typical little green men. We're talking about how things pretty much come from outside the Earth atmosphere. But anyways, what sparked me into it, so yes, I've pretty much grown up into being super creative and loving how to mess with the energy around you, no matter what it was, between spirit boards, manifesting, anything with crystals, anything with the stars, like the constellation star views are always my favorite. However, the kicker was, it's like you go through your life, you know, growing up as a kid, you have these weird, crazy dreams. And, you know, as a young child, you're told, oh, those are just dreams, whatever. And then you throw it to the back of your head. Fast forward during COVID, everything just randomly connected in my head. I don't remember what I was doing. I was probably on Twitch or playing Xbox or smoking weed, who knows. But it was like just a random download just popped in my head. So in 8th grade, I had like a dream basically where I'm looking out this window in a spaceship in space, like basically above the LEO, the low Earth orbit, for those of you that don't know that. And they just pretty much gave me a rundown on like why we're here, what we're supposed to do. And they mentioned COVID, Biden, the vaccine, everything. So obviously, you know, comparing that to modern times, it's like, oh, that actually was real. And I was back in touch with a friend of mine from high school, and she told me, hey, have you looked up what starseeds are? And I'm like, why does that term sound so familiar? As the entire time of COVID-19, it's been one big deja vu. And then I dive into it. I'm like, holy sugar honey iced tea. This resonates terribly. I was like, wait, I'm rubbing my eyes. I'm like, where's Ashton Kutcher? Am I on punked right now? Like, this is weird. And scaringly accurate. And when I was diving into all the different types and looking at articles and other people's stories, it's really interesting to see how, even just talking to you and fellow people that I've met so far, how it's just crazy to think that this stuff is actually more real than people say it is. Your soul is just constantly regenerated. The whole universe is in equilibrium. Just because you die doesn't mean your soul's not being used to bring life somewhere else. It doesn't have to be Earth. That doesn't mean you're going to be
physics, right?
Yeah, literally basic
like
physics.
Energy cannot be created or destroyed. You know,
like
it's
that's
basically
a
recycled.
very common law.
Where do you think you were? Like, where were your atoms? And we've even got famous scientists saying that we were all somewhere in the universe at some point.
Literally, we're all stardust. That's a common one too. Energy is not created nor destroyed, only transform or change from one form to another. That is so true. We've learned that as little kids. That's a very common law for science. When you're in biology, whatever, that's one of the basic core fundamentals of the universe that you learn.
Right.
And it's like, holy crap, this is actually really cool. So, but yes, let's keep going. But I want to basically grow my channel and help other starseeds awaken back to who they were before. And it's just wild. We're here for a reason. The war has begun. We got to shift the Earth back. Let's go.
Right. I agree. Now, so what we have planned tonight is I'm going to do a little You Might Be a Starseed If, and then after that, we're going to run through all the different star families or star races and or ET races or alien, whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable saying. I haven't really talked to one yet that said, hey, I identify as a star people, or, you know, something like that. So we're just going to use a bunch of different terms, but we're going to use the star systems primarily to describe what kind of like my research and Savi's research into these different places and star families kind of comes from. And believe it or not, last year I had a business with my best friend where I taught crazy metaphysical concepts, and they're not crazy to me, and they're probably not crazy to you if you're listening to this, but I had a Starseed September and I taught all of this. I wrote a quiz like to see where your primary star lineage is, and she was like, I don't want anything to do with that, just do your thing. So here I am doing it again. So the first one I want to talk about is a very popular one, and a lot of people are drawn to this star cluster. And I'm going to kind of say what I've found out about them, and then Savi, if I've missed anything or if you have anything to add, we can do it that way.
Sure.
So I know for sure that somebody in the chat, Lily Nova, has a special connection to this star cluster. She's an astrophotographer. She's also been on the show, the Pleiades. So the star that the Pleiadians come from is the Pleiades cluster in the Taurus constellation, which is over 1,000 stars, but mainly seen from Earth as 7 stars known as the Guardians or 7 Sisters. Other cultures have their own meanings and names for this cluster, all revolving around higher vibrational ideas and emotion. And they believe that high vibrational emotions like joy and love are gifted through the star cluster. You will see this star depicted in many cosmologies around the world, spanning many eras. And this is where people kind of are familiar and drawn to this star. There's, you don't even have to leave the planet to realize that this star system was special to many different cultures. And the appearance of these Pleiadians, it varies, but most people are going to say that they are almost like light. They're kind of like the light hair, not quite like the Nordic looking ones, but almost Norse looking. But they are more illuminate, like they glow. So they are like lighter in a vibration, as people would say. And when people are talking about the spiritual dimensions, that your frequency isn't as dense, or your matter isn't as dense. So you are more light than you are density. So people confuse also like the densities and the dimensions. And when people are talking 5D, 6D, 4D, all that, a lot of it is actually referring to the density, not of the vibration and the matter within the organism or species, whatever you want to call it, versus like the actual, like there's 12 dimensions because this says so, you know, like the many worlds theory. So the consciousness also aligns to these densities. And it is said that the Pleiadians kind of come to us from 5 and 6 density, but they can exist anywhere from the Earth density, which is 3D, on up to a lot of people say there's 12, some people say there's more, but in generally there's 12 or 13. So their job or mission is to help us ascend to our higher consciousness and bring heaven to earth. A lot of people say that the light ships, or the little sphere ships that you see in the daytime or nighttime, are them. It's not even their ship. A lot of people say that it's their actual soul or Merkabah, their light body that you're seeing. And some people say it's just their ship because it glows. And these are kind of the ones that people will see that are more peaceful. They get this crazy, like, these downloads while they're looking at them and such. Love. They feel like immense love and joy when they see these specific ships. And yeah, so people say that the light ships that are seen are the Pleiadians, and that is their Merkabah, which is basically your soul, how your soul travels around in your body, out of your body. And there's been people reporting to see a Merkabah come out of people's body when they die, like in hospital settings. So that's what I got on the Pleiadians.
That's an interesting one. That last one.
The Merkabah, yeah. I read that a couple places, but the person that I kind of like started researching it from was Matthias de Stefano.
I am your host, Matthias de Stefano. Yeah. Literally, I have him on my TV right now, just on mute.
He's like
I'm not
frozen.
kidding. He's right there, like.
Right.
Oh.
So, like, another interesting thing people say about the Pleiadians is they are just usually light bodies, and in order to interact with us, very much like people would say like angels do, they have to kind of like slow down their vibration to become like a physical thing for us to see.
Yeah.
And that's
an
like
interesting one
vibration.
too. It's like just wild that it's like they intentionally have to reduce.
Yes.
We can grasp it. Wild.
Yes, and like the whole higher consciousness thing is what will also be referred to as a Christ consciousness, and some people might be triggered by the word Christ because they are very anti-religion, or they've been kind of like had crappy experiences within the Christian or Catholic communities. But Christ consciousness is simply a way of saying like unity consciousness with a like goal of being your higher self and living in your highest state of being, your highest vibrational, which is usually love or the higher emotions. But yeah, that's what I gathered on them. And a lot of people have pleasant experiences when they visit. So Savi, do you know what have you experienced with the Pleiadians, and what do you know about the Pleiadians?
With the Pleiadians, I personally have not experienced anything with them yet. All of my relations, as I'm still learning, have been through the Arcturians and Orion beings. But for my notes that I have on my PDF, this was from quite a few sources that I read over the summer. They exist between the 5th and 6th dimension, which you mentioned. Usually for numerology cases, they can be the life paths of 2, 9, or 11. For the types of crystals that are good for Pleiadian starseeds to use, now this one I'm going to butcher. I'm sorry. It's called a green Hulandite. Never heard of that one. As well as Datalite and Angelite and Apatite. But they are the record keepers for Earth and a matriarchal society that elevates women, children, and families. And they behave a lot like humans, but are more emotionally and spiritually evolved. Hence the feeling of love when you're potentially around one, or the orbs of light and the Merkabahs. Most have come to Earth to help expand its consciousness and evolve. Some come off as childlike, as they have a pure heart and soul. They are the youngest one in the universe, the most recent to come down here. And they tend to be magnets for energy vampires and narcissists. Actually, who knows? I might have some relation to that too, because energy vampires and narcissists and dysfunctional people, but solely because they have the inherent want to heal others. So if you're attracting these psychos left and right and you're blaming yourself, it's not your fault. You just have that subconscious want to heal people. And unfortunately, we attract the wrong people, but it's lessons. We move on to help the better ones. And
or is it the right people, because you do have the capability to sort of have them like entrained to what you're doing.
oh, true.
If they want to, obviously.
Yeah.
The ones that don't, like.
To keep going through this part, their weakest chakra is their throat, as they tend to suppress their needs to others, hence why they help so many people. They don't really focus on themselves and they're not vocal about what they need. They will put aside their wants and needs for helping others, and they also struggle with some self-worth issues and low self-esteem. They inspired the Greek and Roman cultures on Earth, and they tend to be more artistic, singing, music, drawing, dance, sculpting, painting, etc. And some use drugs and alcohol and video games to basically escape from everyday reality. But they're also very dreamy and idealistic, as you mentioned, but not necessarily Nordic, but more light-like. And they avoid conflict. They like to avoid conflicts completely, as they don't know how to handle bad emotions.
Yes.
That's all I pretty much have for the Pleiadians so far.
Yes. So now you might be wondering, am I a Pleiadian starseed? And these are some characteristics of, she listed a lot of them, but she's right about the dreaming. Like a lot of the Pleiadian starseeds are the psychics and intuitives of the world. So they might have these premonitions in their, or, psychic dreams where they know it's going to happen. Almost all of them are empaths. That they lead by their heart, which, like she said, can constrict your ability to speak. So that's your throat chakra, because when you're an empath, if you hurt somebody's feelings, you feel it like you hurt your own feelings. But if you're a new empath, or if you're learning how to kind of like protect yourself from that, so you might shut up because you don't want to hurt somebody, or you put other people ahead of you. So, which is the general empath. You have a more feminine nature about you. So this includes like the men that are Pleiadian starseeds. And this doesn't mean like you're not a manly man. You could look like a manly man and still have like, this a softer energy about you, because we all have the masculine and feminine energies within us, and you might just have more prominence of the feminine energy, which is nurture, and empathic abilities, emotional abilities to express your emotions freely, sometimes for the worse, better or worse. Another thing that I noticed was they said that you might have like a history of low blood pressure and body temperature, but without any, not connected with any actual like ailments or disease or conditions. Humanitarians of the world, which explains a lot of what she said too. They love being in beautiful surroundings. You might like to be in beautiful surroundings, but not like on a superficial level. Like your whole wardrobe doesn't have to be Gucci, but you know how to appreciate a nice, something nice for yourself. Loving. She did mention that they can kind of become prey to like psychic attacks and vampires, because they're kind of like lucid and vivid dreamers. They tend to get astral attacks more often. Because they're so open at nighttime. Everybody is, but like they tend to like be preyed on by like narcissists and energy vampires. One trait that, if you feel like you might have like a star lineage more recently, is you don't think Earth feels like home. Like nothing on Earth feels like home. So
no matter how hard you try, you always feel like something's missing, that you just don't belong here.
Right.
You're always the outcast or the black sheep of the family.
Yep. And that's why one of the reasons I would go outside and look at the stars is because I seriously had like a feeling like I was going to get picked up. Like it's super weird. Like I thought something was going to drive by and just like I was waiting for a ride. I don't know how to explain it. Like, yep. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I had my towel and everything.
That's funny.
So we will do some questions at the end, because I see some questions. But we have a lot of starseeds to talk about, or star lineages to talk about.
Lots.
So the next one is Andromeda. A lot of people love like Andromeda. They have supposedly they have appearances much like ours. So the diversity in which the way they look is like us. Like, you know, like we can see a crowd of humans and everybody looks different. But they are also known to be really tall with wings. So some people think that they are tied to like the Anunnaki gods from Sumeria. And they're also often said to have like big, beautiful eyes, like captivating eyes. Their consciousness is, again, like when you're at this elevation of star lineage or this type of star lineage, you have these technologies, and I'm not talking the computer. There's spiritual technologies that allow you to traverse through the different planes and densities. So they're everywhere. Some say that they were created from the Lyran beings, who were said to be one of the oldest star races. But the thing about Andromeda is they're not particularly they don't like to bother us. They're kind of watching because they value the freedom of a species and an organism. And also they're not like people hear about like the hybridization program. They're not going to be the ones that like pick you up and do these things to you. So they are science minded, but not in the way that like the geneticist type star lineages would be. The things that might tell you that you might have had a recent lineage or you might be an Andromedan starseed is you value freedom and justice, and they are said to have, like, everybody's heard about like the the galactic councils and all that stuff. They have their own the Andromedan Council, which is like intergalactic and interdimensional council of star beings, and they're kind of like sit back and watch everything and make sure like things are going the way they should. And if you have a sense of adventure is another one that might have you having an Andromedan lineage. Ability to travel astrally. So these are the people that like astral travel on accident while they're dreaming. And they're also like the quiet warriors. Like they will F you up, but they're not going to be like bragging about it and flexing all over the street. Low key confidence, but not showy. And they are the wisdom keepers because they are some of the oldest souls in existence in time and space. So that's my Andromedan.
That was a lot of good info for sure. Because I hopefully nobody can hear me typing, but I'm definitely taking notes on what you're saying too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have you just send me yours because I can't write fast enough. Because if I write too fast, another thing that I read about them is like they have a problem being on time, like because where they're from, like time is not the way it is here. They're always like the late person or the really early person. They're private people. They're the teachers because they're the oldest souls. They have a very high respect for planetary resources, which is probably why they don't mess with us because they're probably sick of our crap. But yeah,
right. I would be too. Shit. But for some reason, we're back here, right?
Right, we're here.
That's funny. Let's see. So on my end for Andromeda now, hopefully this also co-aligns because I have not looked at this in summertime. But they exist from the 3rd to 12th dimension. And for numerology purposes, for life paths, usually 3 or 5 tend to resonate towards Andromedan. For the types of crystals, we got smithsonite. I'm going to butcher this one. Purpurite, Herkimer diamond, and rutilated quartz. That one I just got. That's actually a really pretty one.
They're too. So pretty, yeah.
They are. It's like they put little streams of that glitter, like tinsel on a Christmas tree.
Yes, yes.
But they are loving, benevolent, and telepathic beings that are heart-centered. They have one mission, which is to bring peace and love to those that were enslaved by the Reptilians, Lyrans especially. Intellectually advanced and masters in all categories of science. They also have a balance of both left and right brain hemispheres that tend to give them a unique position in the universe. They work with the Sumerians and Anunnaki, and they have an affinity to angels and archangels. They are very spiritual and want to live on the road like nomads, as you just said, but do not like to live in one place for too long, as they would literally want to backpack and travel the world in a van. They love to travel and do not like to stay in one spot. They have a hard time sticking to relationships and jobs and careers, as you just mentioned, with time constraints. This is funny. How about that? Like, this is literally, for those of you like watching and listening, it's pretty cool to see how our own research is already like colliding together. It's like we need more people to do more research on this stuff. But yes, they have a hard time making up their mind about where they want to stay, as they hate being confined and want complete freedom. Most of the time, they have a hard time of commitment. They tend to fantasize about living off the grid, as they have issues with the government, as you also just said. But that's about all I pretty much have with them, aside from the fact they are anarchists and rebels and protest against causes, as they have a hate for the injustice.
Right. They value that freedom. And people are like, well, everybody values freedom, but this is like a make or break. Like if you're an Andromedan starseed, and they're also the most rare starseed. So if you're an Andromedan starseed, then you're not going to be in relationships where you feel restricted. And if you are in a relationship that feels restricted, it becomes very toxic to both of you. And then also, you're going to hate your life, because if you don't have any freedom and you're in Andromedan, you're not going to like it there. I do have I see a question that I want to address now, because, I moved it, because I don't want to forget about it. I will do more questions at the end, but this one pertains to like the astral travel that we just talked about. So the accidental astral travel happens when people are, from a very young age, they have very vivid dreams. And their dream, these people as children have nightmares a lot, and they don't necessarily sleepwalk, but they do talk in their sleep sometimes. They have sleep paralysis a lot of the times, people that can astral travel naturally. And they might wake up gasping for air. They might think that their parents might think they have sleep apnea, but that's not it. It's them coming back into their body. So so she asked, how does it feel like when you're accidentally astral traveling? So when you're astral traveling in your dreams or in your sleep, and you're actually, if you believe in spirituality concepts around astral travel, your soul is traveling while you're sleeping, or your astral body is traveling, whatever you want to call this energy body that gets out of you and travels. It works sometimes in the different dimensions in the astral realm. So what it'll feel like to people that just astrally travel or astrally project on accident or not in a controlled manner, they will feel like they're like landing in their bed. Like some people say, like they feel their bed shake and they can't breathe as they're coming back into their body. And that's the biggest thing that, people have said and experienced. So that's one thing that happens. And it happens when you do it in your waking life too. Like you'll get that feeling that you would just like the ground shakes, but it's actually you coming back in. So, because it happens fast. And then we have somebody said that he's looked down on his sleeping body. If you have a lot of dreams where you're looking down at yourself, and it's kind of accompanied with those coming back into your body symptoms, which some people get really hot too. I've noticed that, like super hot after that big like tremor or that big like kind of like shock to your system where it's almost like you hold your breath for a long time and you're like gasping for air. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what it feels like. But yeah, if you have a lot of dreams that you're looking down your body, there's a good chance that you're probably consciously astrally projecting, but subconsciously. Like you're not doing it on purpose, but your consciousness is conscious. Your consciousness knows it's doing it, which is your higher self too. So it gets complicated and weird. I also taught a dream class this past summer, actually. So we talked about a lot of this stuff because a lot of people were messaging me about dream stuff. And I was like, I can't like sit here and I want to talk to you all day, but I had to like put it in one spot that way, because people's dreams are getting weirder and weirder.
Yep.
So yeah, the astral travel thing is, it's scary to people when they don't know they're doing it and then they're just doing it. So hopefully that answers your question, Carolina.
Especially the part when you mentioned about feeling like the bed is shaking, that made my stomach sink, because literally that's how it felt last night. But I just thought I'm waking up and, rolling over and going back to sleep. But when I opened my eyes, obviously I was still, but the bed was just doing a little bit of gyration, quote unquote, from our perspective, because that's how it feels. It's like, oh. So when you say that, I was like, oh, I probably was doing that last night. It's kind of funny.
A lot of people do it. everybody does it, but the question is, are you meant to do it consciously or with intention?
Right.
If you're starting to remember doing it and getting symptoms around doing it, then the odds are you should be putting intention in before bed, because this will also lead to more pleasant experiences. Because when people are active dreamers or vivid dreamers or lucid dreamers, they tend to have these attacks like in the lower, what I was taught the lower astral realm is where all the monsters and boogeymen and demons hang out, where the the naughty grays and the mean reptilians hang out. So that's kind of something that you want to pay attention to if it's affecting you adversely. If it's just happening and you're cool with it, then don't worry about it, do your thing. But if you want to control that more, the first thing you have to do is start setting intentions before bedtime. But that's just me being a mama bear, I guess. Do this. So the next one is Arcturus. We're going to talk about Arcturian starseeds next. From the star Arcturus in the Boots constellation. I'm not sure if I'm saying boots right.
I used to say booties just to be
The
funny.
booty constellation.
Booties!
Oh gosh. The booty constellation. It is said that they are the ones that were in Atlantis first and seeded Atlantis. And that's where some of the first like crossbreeding happened. It's also in the handle of the Big Dipper. The handle of the Big Dipper points to Arcturus. So if you're trying to find it, that's one way to find it. And it's a red orange supergiant star, which is 36.7 light years away from Earth. So just around the corner. These ones the Arcturians tend to be a little more dense in vibration. They're mostly hang out in the fourth dimensional consciousness, but can exist in 3D bodies while still remaining. So their consciousness can be in fourth dimension or fourth density, and their body can be here. So that's cool. They are one of the blue races due to the lack of oxygen in their realm. They don't need it there, but they can look like us in skin tone if they've been hanging around Earth. And this is kind of like one of the star races that people say are on Earth, kind of like incognito, just hanging out with us. You really wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Their DNA is very similar to ours. And they're kind of like one of their missions, as people would say, is to procreate with humans and to help integrate the ascension DNA codes within our DNA and activate them. Ooh. So they produce sexually like us, because not the lighter ones, like the light-bodied entities, don't like do it and have babies the way we do. But the Arcturians supposedly reproduce how we do. So they are said to be the guardians of the information being fed to us through the Pleiades, because the Pleiades is kind of like, so the Pleiadians are getting this information and giving it. It's being channeled through the Arcturians a lot of the times if they're not trying to lower it down to our frequency or our density. So they use different ascension technologies to integrate higher realm information from fourth density and up. And they take that knowledge, because not obviously like we all would speak different languages on Earth. How do you think it is in different densities and dimensions? Obviously, it's not going to come to us in English most of the times. You're just going to have like a knowing. But part of what the Arcturians do is they translate, because they're kind of like in between. They're very like us, but they're also more more high vibrational than us, and more spiritually enlightened and more advanced. So some modalities of the ascension technologies include sacred geometry, such as the sphere and octahedron specifically. This is where geometric shapes act as an energetic key to turn on and off different energetic and physical codons within our existing DNA, and to help awaken the ascension process, as well as certain spiritual gifts. So they use sacred geometry. So if you ask for a sign or you're dreaming about weird shapes, you might be getting information from Arcturians, because they give a lot of sacred shapes in to people to help them understand. And the weird thing is, people will see a shape and they'll kind of like know what it is without it saying anything, or we just inherently kind of know sometimes. They are one of the few. There's a lot of interactions with the Arcturians that is like a consensual abduction. So people, because I think they're so close to us, like you know, an appearance and demeanor, we kind of can be a little more comfortable hanging out with one of them versus like a gray or you know, a reptilian maybe. So I mean, you know, I like them all. So they've been around and mingling with you know, all of our bipedal ancestors. So they've kind of been here the longest and kind of interacting with us actively, not just watching from a side. So a lot of people that have these consensual procedures or abduction type scenarios or experiences is because of the Arcturians, because they will report like blue beings that were not scary, that weren't hurting them, and they were not, you know, afraid in a lot of cases because they just wanted to go with them. And yeah, they have, I'm trying to think. So what I wrote down was the Arcturians are the how and the tech behind the science of the ascension process with energy and how we kind of start like expanding our consciousness and waking up like our, you know, our sleeping light codes. But yeah.
That's so cool. Arcturians are freaking awesome. One thing that I definitely learned from watching that show on Gaia that you and I have seen, Initiation. Love that show. For those of you that are looking for something to watch, Gaia, Initiation. For those of you that don't know what Gaia is, no, this is not a sponsorship. It's literally Netflix for spiritual junkies. It's awesome. Anyways, the show even mentioned how when you rewind the clock for when religions were first, you know, developing, when it came to the Middle Eastern religions, how their gods were blue, just randomly blue. It's like, oh, come on, out of all the colors, why are we picking blue?
Right.
Some
Especially in ancient Egypt.
Yeah, because we have Egypt, and when it comes to Hinduism,
he's more green, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But it's funny how multiple religions from around the world, even cultures, just have blue beings depicted as gods. Yeah. Why blue out of all colors? That's not a coincidence. We're already past the point of coincidences, right? For those of us watching here, we're past the point of coincidences. That's not a coincidence. So I definitely believe that they were the gods depicted in all of those art pieces were the Arcturians, yes. And they have a sense of messed up humor. Benji's one, yeah. And I don't know if you've experienced that too, because you said you have Arcturian lineage as well.
Yeah, we had to get Benji to get a reading from Duncan. I need to get Duncan.
We do. I was about to say, yes.
I can message him. I'm just kind of like, I don't know if he does that. So, but I think he would be great to talk about the Schumann resonance and Arcturians specifically, because he's like so close to that.
You know? He is. Yes. It's so cool. But yeah, they also have a messed up sense of humor. Like I'll give a short story, right? I'm driving on the highway. I'm driving on the highway. Give a short. I'm driving on the highway. You know, I'm still trying to understand how all this psychic download stuff works, because you know, when you're on your own, you're trying to understand this. And I'm like, okay, if this shit's real, send me an orange car on my left. Not even 30 seconds later, there's an orange car. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're funny. Send me a second one. And I'm not kidding. Within 15 seconds, an orange semi was right behind the first orange car.
Sounds like
so I took that as an Arcturian joke, because I'm like, I just started busting out laughing, because I'm like, am I going crazy, or did that actually just happen?
Right. They're very, yeah, a lot of people have heard that from a friend. She does a lot of Arcturian channeling, and she says they're very like specific if you get comfortable with them. But what you'll see, and I see some people are like, oh, Arcturians, I never thought about that or heard about that. So here's kind of like, here's your whole Starseed traits if you are possibly like in relationship to Arcturians or have had been an Arcturian recently. Sorry, something just, that's fun. Okay.
Hello.
So if you are an Arcturian Starseed, you might see different shapes and colors with your eyes closed. Now, everybody has this, but it doesn't mean crap to some people. You're going to be more science-minded with a high interest in physics, biology, molecular science. You will be in search of ways to see physically different ascension traits. So you look at people differently, and it's not biological traits all the time. It's almost like energetic signatures that you pick up on, or like people will be like, oh, I felt your vibe, that kind of thing. They are the futurists of the world. They believe in the integration of biology and technology. And you feel as if you're a guardian of knowledge, especially when it comes to esoteric knowledge, because they have, been with us for so long. They've observed all the world religions before, since the beginning of time, since Atlantis, supposedly. And you easily tap into spiritual realms. So you might just be one of those people that can see beyond the veils very easily. You channel messages from the higher realms very easily. You are in contact with high vibrational beings often. You feel a sense of connection to the collective consciousness very quickly, very easily. Some of us have to work and do the chakra alignments and all that, but people that have Arcturian backgrounds just kind of like tap in, no biggie. You feel highly empathetic to people's spiritual struggles specifically. So this is a different type of empath. Empaths kind of feel the pain of others. They feel the feelings of others. They're able to read others' feelings and almost integrate those feelings within themselves. But this person, if you're Arcturian lineage, if you come from Arcturian Starseed lineage, you are able to kind of read people's spiritual energetics or spiritual signatures and struggles. So you might have like this need to be a spiritual teacher or help people on their spiritual path. Again, a lot of these other star lineages are going to, and alien races, whatever you want to call them, are very big on sustaining resources. Here's the thing, we're the only assholes that don't do it.
Yeah.
And the reptilians.
So why do you think we're like that? Because we got reptilians here, right?
And this sounds like Benji too, because listen to this. When you promote and encourage health practices that could lead to the raising of a person's vibration and consciousness, your calling is to help others heal in mind, body, and spirit. And you are very aware of a multi-dimensional consciousness and existence. And you know that it's possible even while being on this earth. So you kind of, you understand the whole holographic theory and the theory of us having holograms of ourselves or, different avatars of ourselves simultaneously existing. And this is funny because you said this in a way, throat chakra centric. I wrote that down because the communication of transmissions and messages to us are very blunt and they awaken people super fast. If you are an Arcturian starseed, the things that you say will trigger people for the better. And maybe if you're not an evolved one, it might trigger people for the worst.
That happens.
So those are the no filter people. They're kind of like the tough love people too, if you think about it.
Yep.
Like the person that you're like, why the hell did you say that to me? And then you're like, but you needed it. Like your soul needed it. Because they're right. So you might be an Arcturian if you don't have a filter, basically.
Yep, basically.
So you recently got some Arcturian knowledge, right? From do you feel like sharing that? Or
from Duncan?
Yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely. I don't mind, especially for those who are still lost. Literally any stories can help anybody at this point. It's actually kind of messed up because before I spoke to Duncan Alexander, who is what I call a Starseed channeler. He's able to use his Arcturian side to basically help people learn about their astral history. And when he was talking to me, he basically said, you for sure have Arcturian lineage. And he said to the royal DNA, I don't know what that meant, but I'm about to ask him. And then he also said the Orion race as well. I'm like, interesting, because we all know I got my Orion Constellation on my shoulder.
That is so funny, because I was like, that was going to be my next tattoo before the girl moved, to add it add it under my Metatron cube with like the watercolor and all that.
Do it. You need to do it. You need to build on it.
Friendship tattoos.
Yeah, literally at this point. Well, because my abuela wants to get the Sirius tattoo because she resonates to that one. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, me too. She's so cute. So when it came to the Arcturian, so literally the day before, or maybe 2 days, actually it was after you and I were talking the other day to catch up and prepare for tonight. I think it was literally that night. I was drinking at the Anchor, aka the bar in my dad's backyard. For those of you that know my dad, he's hammered. I'm just, kicking back and sipping on some whatever the heck I was drinking. He
Gin and
plays something. He puts on Blue Man Group.
Oh my gosh.
And the moment that happened, I was like, oh my fucking God. And then all of a sudden, so much just started, we know how downloads are at this point. And I love Blue Man Group. Like, I listened to their music since freaking high school, and I'm 25. Like, I've been out of high school for a while. Love them. I've seen them at concert. They're awesome. But I think it's funny how, for me, when it comes to music, I love instrumentals rather than anything with lyrics, because there's just such a beauty into the natural frequencies of music, to where it's like, oh yeah, my dad's insane. He just popped in and
where is
hi.
He? You have to have him come say hi. Oh God.
Dad, get over here.
If you guys don't know Jeff, he's got a cool Spotify and blog, The Jolt, and I'll put him in this description after, and I will put Duncan Alexander's site too. So if you want to get like a star rating.
Yeah, so it's funny. Some of y'all know my dad. That's so weird yet awesome at the same time. Anyways, so yeah, we were watching Blue Man Group, and just this thing downloaded in my head, and I was just like, hold on. I remember feeling this thing before, because like, here's the thing. When I first started with my awakening, Orion 100%. I was like, oh heck yes, because with the stuff I was researching, like dark side, that I don't give a heck attitude, and bluntness, which also ties to Arcturians too. But then it was just like, what the heck? I just remember just seeing that. I don't know. It was like just some deja vu. I don't know how to explain it. It was just some deja vu moment. And I'm like, hold on. I like Blue Man Group because, oh yeah, because y'all are blue. And then when that happened, literally I realized everything is blue. I love Stitch. Stitch is blue.
Oh,
my walls are blue. Everything's blue. Yeah. And I'm like, does that tie into it too? Because I think that was like an indirect, hey, dumbass. Hey.
Yeah. If you saw my meditation room upstairs, the internet's crap up there, which is why I'm not doing it up there. But I've got this really cool like crystal meditation room, and it has a lot of like blue and indigo, kind of like the colors behind you, like those blues and fuchsias and purples. So
I love these colors too.
But nice. Yeah, blue, the David Bowie song Blue. Oh, love it.
Rest in peace, David Bowie.
Oh, I love him. He's like my favorite. I have a David Bowie tarot deck. So we'll have to bust it out. Yeah. There's a labyrinth one, and then there's one called the Starman Tarot. And the Starman Tarot is like super psychedelic looking.
Oh, that's
cool. The labyrinth one is like kind of like old school, like very muted, earthy colors. So
like the movie?
Yeah, like the movie. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
The other one's super psych. I love it.
Yeah. It's electric. Boogie, boogie, boogie. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Just looking all around me, I'm like, everything's blue. Like it just, that's not a coincidence. Like I said, we're past the point of coincidences. It was just weird.
Exactly. So I can't wait till Diana Pasulka comes out with her Synchronicities book, because it's going to be good. Anyways, moving on. Lyran is going to be our next description that we're going to go over. The next beings we will talk about is from Lyra and Vega constellation, which is 32,900 light years away. And I didn't do these for all. I guess I had my life together for the last ones I was researching and started like the light years. Lyrans are also very much like us. They are said to be the first humans. Like supposedly they are the reason we exist. So they're known as the lion people because of their feline-like features. Sometimes people say there's bird Lyrans. All Lyrans are supposedly humanoid and said to be the root race of all humanoid type races in our galaxy. And it is said that they and the Arcturians seeded Atlantis. So in Lemuria. So they are the ones that kind of started messing with the Earth genetics and actually kind of creating some of it. They want us to remember, their mission is to help us remember our true nature. They are even older than the Andromedans. So we say Andromedans are some of the oldest souls, but Lyrans are like the old souls. They have like a high work ethic and knowledge of how physical energy works. They love being on Earth, like they're because their planet, before a bunch of stuff happened to them from the evil reptilians, of course, was a lot like Earth. They know how to enjoy Earth to the fullest. Like there's no shame in their game. They want to come here and have fun and enjoy the things that we enjoy. It is said they gifted us fire, which is a key to our evolution, which is interesting because a lot of, there's a lot of stories about fire being gifted by different animals and, gods. So they supposedly were the ones that were actually doing it. They are travelers of the world and universe. So the Lyran starseeds tend to have a wanderlust. Like they don't like to stay in the same spot. They never see themselves settling. They're very analytical. They work to their goals and see them out with a passion. They're kind of like that Leo energy too, because Leo does that too. They fight for injustice. Everything's passionate with these people. But they are also lovers of nature. They don't really like, they want to be polyamorous because they understand, a lot of these polyamorous people are Lyrans, because they understand that like the love and the passion have like a dual thing, that they can exist side by side, and you can love more than one person and be involved with them in sexy time ways. So, which is the fierce independence. So if they usually have like an athletic build. This doesn't mean like they're like pro wrestler athletic or football player athletic, just athletic in general. So they tend to have like those people that put on muscle easily, or can eat 9 cheeseburgers and just get a muscle instead of a fat roll. Very daredevil, adventurous, and fearless. And this makes me think of, from astrology, all the fire signs are like this. But they are drawn to the metaphysical side of things. So they're kind of like a jock on the outside, but secretly they want to go meditate and venture into polyamory, I guess. Their biggest, a lot of these star lineages have like chakras that kind of are more powerful. And theirs is the root, because they don't mind being grounded. Like I said, they don't mind Earth. They love Earth, and they love kind of hanging out with us, where the other ones are like, we like you, we want you to do better, we'll kind of give you some genetics here and there, hook up here and there, but we're not trying to interfere. They don't mind interfering. They're just here. They do have a deep understanding of the transient nature of physical reality based on their ancient wisdom. And I found that on spiritnomad.com, which is a really good website. More masculine energy. So we talked earlier about the Pleiadians being more femininity, like more feminine energy. And the Lyran starseeds tend to be more aggressive in masculine, and not always in a bad way. Aggressive isn't always bad. They're assertive, I guess is the better word, and self-sufficient. And they are known for having keen survival skills. So Lyra, Savita, what do you know about Lyra?
That sounds pretty much on point with what I have. One I will definitely point out is that they tend to be huge klutzes. Like they will trip over air. And it's funny because the friend that I mentioned earlier with how I came across Starseed stuff, she is Lyran. And she didn't dive into what Starseeds were. I was doing my own research and then laid it back to her. And yeah, one of the big things that they pointed out was that they're literally just huge klutzes, because they're so used to being so good with their cat-like features in the other dimensions or lifetimes that they don't have those same reflexes here. So they will literally fall and knock over everything. Literally, anytime her and I hang out, she'll be knocking my TV down. I'll be like, but not just that, but they also never feel like they're truly home, or that they never feel like that they truly belong. And I know that's similar to how the majority of starseeds feel, but with them, it's a little more emphasized, almost kind of like, the Avatar movie with the blue monkeys, James Cameron. Right. It's like the scene of when the tree was taken down and being destroyed. That was literally what happened to them with the Reptilians. So they really feel like that they're nowhere to be included with normality. Like they're just so, I don't want to say alone, but basically like that. And it's kind of sad because it's like, you know, these people, well, reptilians come out of nowhere and they just destroy their
Yeah.
beautiful world and is, well, multiple planets, because it's just like, the heck's wrong with them? But that, and they also do have subconscious fears of reptilians or types of skin deformities. I don't remember which type of deformation it's called, but for my friend particularly, she has the fear of basically holes in the skin that makes
Oh,
people look almost like sponges, which
oh
kind
okay.
of
That has
relates
the
back
name. Yeah.
to scaly skin stuff, aka reptilians. So I thought that was
Right.
interesting that like, she has no idea what Lyrans are, never heard of them, and she even had the same characteristics. But other than
Interesting.
that, I have the same stuff as you: feline slash avian like bird or cat. And they're pretty much the oldest starseed lineage in the universe. Yes, they were the oldest ones that we know of, while Pleiadians are the most recent ones.
Yes.
And for numerology purposes, if you have a life path 1, 5, or 11, that can resonate towards a Lyran starseed origin. And my friend had a 1, so it can't get
Yeah.
any closer than that.
So I think what we're gonna do too is if you want to email me your notes, I can make a Google Drive link so people can kind of look at the notes or something.
Heck yeah. I
'Cause I
have
have,
to make it nice, though. It's all over the
oh, it's
place.
so
It's
Benji
15 pages.
mentions that, yeah, I think mine's long too, especially since my Orion one's being weird, which we'll get to last because it's weird.
Yes.
Benji said there are cat-faced beings mentioned in declassified Australian UFO documents, right? And everybody just was like, oh, there's cat-faced beings, and then moved on to the next thing. Like, yes, yeah, I
Ooh.
have that. If you want me to send it to you, like I have it downloaded, except I got all paranoid. I was like, they're gonna get rid of it. Like,
Wait. You have like what
well,
they.
you can go. I have the link to it. It's still up, and Benji definitely has a link to the Australian documents where they do talk about cat things, and people just kind of like glossed over that, like, yeah, whatever. There's cats. Like nobody talks about it. I think because somebody mentioned something. Oh my gosh, who was I talking to? I'm having the weirdest deja vu. Like, oh, somebody mentioned why nobody on Twitter today, somebody said, or yesterday, why isn't anybody talking about, it was Undead Gaucho. He said, why isn't anybody talking about the occupants? Because people like, you know, the occupants of these crafts that were mentioned, because people like don't want to put themselves out there like that. Like they're just afraid of saying something that they can't see and prove and demonstrate to people, you know, I want to say Barney style because my husband's in the army. And see, when you break something down Barney style, it's like A, B, C, you know, like, so if they can't hold it, see it, smell it, and have intercourse with it, they don't think it's real. So it's just strange that people like if Lula Lozano talks about occupants, it's like because it's this mass roar up, but nobody actually takes the time to talk about it on the side like we are. So I mean there are people that do it, but not very publicly because everybody wants to be everybody's afraid of kind of putting a bad name to the UFO community or the UAP community because but something's got to be operating these craft, right? So why is it so taboo?
It's because there's more truth than that we know that they're just too afraid to admit. Multiply that by the entire freaking globe, subtracted by the amount of people that don't think or talk about these topics, is it just equals a ratio of disaster. So it's
Right.
like it's messed up because it's like I wish we were allowed to know the truth. And it's like,
And
what the heck? But then, you know,
it's
going back to the vision I had, it's like we are here for a reason. But and Benji had the same message too. This is how my first gut was like, oh, maybe I'm Arcturian too. Was that they told the both of us to basically spread the word. We're basically their prophets, all of us, all the starseeds, and even for people who don't know that they're starseeds, we're all prophets for these beings. But we just can only collect who we can because not everyone's going to believe it. Not everyone will accept it, but they're going to have to because, quote, we're coming back. Like, I'm not kidding. So I'm just like, I hope that they're coming now. Even if I'm on an oxygen tank at 90, I'll take it. But it's like really weird how
we'll see it.
people from different parts of the globe were given the exact same information.
Right.
And even back to ancient civilizations. all had so many similarities. How can we say that we are alone? How can we say that, oh, they were just making stuff up with these flying crafts and people
Right.
coming
Yeah.
down? It's what? This is thousands of years old before religion was even like concretely.
Right. Making up the same story across the world, you know, without even having the same language or language in some cases. So another thing Benji put in the chat is, why am
Oh
I the
yeah.
only dude in the chat? Dudes seem to be afraid to talk about this stuff. Not sure why. Because I'm gonna answer. Because it relies on a more intuitive aspect of the human organism, and most men or dudes have, you know, they have more of the masculine energy. They are more analytical. So tapping into like the feminine side of themselves is not only looked down upon by some people that may have raised them, but also by society. Like, you're not supposed to be into all this woo-woo stuff if you've got a penis.
Apparently.
So, or a, you know.
But hey, good thing you're here though, Benji, because you've helped me. Like, we've all helped each other. It's awesome. But another thing I was told too is that when it comes to the masculine type of energy, they need more of that concrete proof rather than just belief and intuition. They need that black and white. That's also why. So, for example, with my boyfriend, it's been hard to quote unquote convince him with some of this stuff. However, he has been first to witness some of the experiences I've been going through, such as random bunches of information that you literally just cannot make up. Improv is non-existent at that point. The number synchronicities, angel numbers, those are wild too. Mm-hmm. There's so many signs to it. It's like, whoa, this stuff is more real than it's not.
Yeah.
And yeah.
The synchronicities also encompass other paranormal phenomena too. Like, some people are triggered by, like, some people will see a spirit and then they'll see a UFO, or they'll see a UFO and then it triggers their empath abilities, their lucid dreaming, the ability to see spirits and other beings, multidimensional beings. So it definitely triggers that spiritual awakening that so many people are afraid to talk about too. Yeah. So this brings us to reptilians, everybody's favorite. We're not going to get into the conspiracies right now because I honestly kind of only know the basics of that. But they're from Draco Constellation. Earth and Orion is where they are. 3 and 4D. So they're on this plane and also in the lower astral plane. Humanoid with reptile features. And it is said that a lot of them descend from draconian beings, but not all the time. There are not, and then this is something that might not resonate with people, but there's a very small group that are not bad or mean or naughty or evil. There are some that have turned, and they didn't start off, all of them didn't start off trying to do all the mean, evil reptilian stuff that you hear about. Some of them are teaching us how to, like, kind of rule ourselves, our emotions, and how to survive, more importantly, because they gifted us the reptilian brain structure. If you believe in the whole, like, hybridization theory where we are descended from all these different genetic beings, or these genetics from these different beings, they're survivors at all costs, which tends to make them go to their dark mission, which is, to create and control the human race. Obviously, but part of their light mission is they gave sacred wisdom to women. A lot of the reptilian leaders are female, and they kind of just use the male. So it's kind of like the Adam and Eve story. Who did we talk to? Who did us evil women talk to in the garden? The snake. What did the snake give us? Wisdom. So that they're not all bad. So that's our light mission. The dark mission would be to control and create the control, and to control the human race for their survival and material and egotistical gain. But at the end, it's just surviving. They're not even aware sometimes. What they're doing is damaging because they're not even there. It's almost like a narcissist where they don't even realize, you know what I mean, that they're hurting people.
Plot twist, all narcissists are reptilians.
Right?
That would make sense, right?
So they kind of they're associated with promoting the patriarchy to tip the balance more towards the, the analytical, less spiritual side of things. And they want to keep us in an emotionally charged state in order to manipulate us and prevent our ascension process. So things like mass hysteria created by scenarios that may or not be as big as they're leading us to be, leading us to believe.
Which we're experiencing one now.
Yes. And then also one of the main theories is that they would like to keep the population under a certain control so they can keep more resources for themselves and control the resources. Because if more humans start waking up and being born, it's very easy for people to gather once we realize we're all in this together and kind of throw that out, like throw them out or throw them off the planet or get rid of their agendas because we are more powerful. So there's many different types of reptilians. The few that people talk about are the Draconians, are the very big, non-emotional and cold ones. These are the ones that you hear about that attacked Lyra and are like the survivors. They kind of just go from planet to planet, sucking resources. They are also known as being really good geneticists of the universe, but not in a good way, not to help us. They search the universe for beings with DNA structures that hold compatible with their genetic code to carry on their lineage, basically.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on.
Oh,
hello.
I'll pop in.
You popped it as we were talking.
To the field of view. Greetings and
hello.
salutations.
It's the anchor guy.
It's the anchor guy, she says.
It is.
Jeff
I
popped
can't
in,
hear
guys.
her, but I.
Oh, that's right. Hello, how are you?
Hey, I am great. How you doing, Pricilla?
Doing good. We're just talking about, reptilians and their evil plans.
It's
normal.
You know what? It's amazing.
Normal Wednesday night.
And hey, am I allowed to? I sent Savannah Savita a link earlier today for one of my favorite podcasts. And I'm not doing this just to promote them, but it's The Point of Convergence by Exo-Academian.
Oh, so good.
Yes,
so
he's
good.
amazing.
He's so good. Yeah.
And his latest one is
good.
Phenomenal. And he talks about the story of James Stark. Or I forget his name.
I haven't heard
Tony Stark.
No, not Stark.
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Darn it. What? Here, pull it up on your phone. Anyway, but the thing is he was an experiencer.
Jim Sparks.
Jim Sparks.
Oh, okay.
And he was an experiencer, and I mean a lifelong experiencer, and was very adamant about his experience. Wrote a book, and he got a lot of criticism throughout his life about it. But when you read his testimony, and that's what Exo-Academian did in his podcast, is he was really digging into the guy's testimony, and according, what he engaged with is that the beings told him that they were star people. And I mean, it's just an amazing testimony. And, I'm encouraging Savannah to listen to it.
His podcast is great.
It really is. And all he touches on is the existence of, what he terms as the others. Whoever they are, whatever they are.
Right.
And he's got like over 50 episodes, and he doesn't touch on any of the technology, or anything other than the interactions between humans and them. And it's really, really, really good.
Yeah, I love his podcast. He was on Witness Citizen not too long ago, and
I
didn't realize he was going to be there, and I was there with Sean, because I've been doing co-host stuff with Sean from Witness Citizen. So he was there, and I was just like a little like starstruck because I love his podcast, and I didn't.
He didn't show his face, right? It was just
he doesn't show his face.
Right, I know. Okay. Yeah, I've been friends with Exo for a while on Twitter and stuff, and we've talked and stuff, behind the scenes here and there. He really is amazing. And Witness Citizen, my gosh, he's
great.
been,
yeah, Sean's awesome.
Oh I'm so impressed with all the stuff that he's uncovering. I'm like, because
Yeah,
he
that
came
man
out of
is just like
nowhere,
studies. Yeah,
right?
he just like studies and reads everything available.
Oh, yeah,
So
he's
yeah,
awesome.
very open-minded. He brings information, he puts it out there. But yeah, he, like you said, he just like blew up out of nowhere. So
Yeah, he did originally, and he's a phenomenal musician,
yes.
and very intellectual. But he's been, I follow him obviously, and I've been reading a lot of the documents that he's been finding and digging up, and it's like,
Right.
holy mackerel.
Yeah,
So.
he literally has to like read through all that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing with with this whole topic of star people, and the birth of modern day humanity on this planet. It really, when you start to hear testimonies from these people who are, which when they first came out, maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, they may not have been credible. But when you start to revisit their testimonies and experiences, that they were so steadfast in proclaiming,
Right.
and you combine it with today's technology, today's understanding, you look back, hindsight is 2020. So you look back and you say, whoa, wait a minute, these people were right.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think people
Yeah.
are a little more open-minded now too because of all our technological advances. It's
Right.
kind of the things that are happening to them we can actually envision happening because of even just the amount of like sci-fi that's come out that is like science-based sci-fi or like theoretical science-based. They can do this stuff. So I
Yeah.
think people are finally getting heard. So it does definitely. It's nice to have people that are looking into that still, like Sean and Ex Academian.
Oh, absolutely. And and I would encourage every your listeners to another older case was, and I think I think I wrote about it on the Jolt, is Dorothy Izat.
Yes, I think you did. Yeah, you did.
Man,
That's a really cool case too.
30,000 feet of 8 millimeter film of her engagement with what she called the light beings.
Yes.
And they
and a lot of
came
people have experienced that
yes,
too.
but it's recorded, and she actually engaged with oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank because I'm kind of nervous. Oh damn, Marion, I'm busy.
How are you nervous with that?
I'm not
Pulls
nervous.
up your beard.
J. Allen Hynek. So
Okay.
he actually investigated her, Dorothy Izat,
Right.
after he was in Project Blue Book. And after he investigated her and had all of her footage analyzed, he basically said to her, look, this is real.
Yeah.
And he said, don't engage with anyone anymore. He goes, because all that's going to happen is that you're going to get thrown in with the kooks. But this for you this is real. And she testifies to that, as well as the reporter that she befriended. So the whole story of Dorothy Izat is amazing.
Yes.
Amazing testimony.
Definitely
But that was from the
look
80s.
into. Yeah. A lot of, I feel like the cases from that era were definitely, they stand out because people are still talking about it. There's that whole thing, people saying, well, why aren't people getting abducted now? Why aren't people? They are. People are such jerks online.
Well, they may not be
saying anything.
But they may not be also because of the fact that our technology has become so much more advanced in the last 20, 30 years that we can record stuff pretty quick.
Right.
And so perhaps we don't hear about it because they've pulled back. That's my theory, because,
it's interesting.
You know what I mean? Because, back in the 60s and 50s and, since the dawn of the Trinity experiment, in the nuclear age, yes, we had a lot of recordings of abductions, but I think that those abduction recordings have become less because of the fact that our technology has become more advanced. They do not want to be detected. They do not yet want to present themselves.
Well, they better do better because they're being detected. They better, hey.
Well, they are.
Zip it up,
man. To an extent, but I think
we see you.
Yeah. Yes. But I think it's all actually on their on
Their terms.
their terms. Exactly.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm just joking.
Exactly. Oh, I know.
So watch there be like they're waiting for me now because I said that.
All right. Oh,
I can't hear her.
Well,
That's
yeah,
why.
you need to get
Savita's
back on
pulling
your
me
channel.
back, so-
You need to make some more videos and some
oh,
more
I
podcasts.
have some things that I'm doing some deep dives in regarding
Yeah.
technology on things that I've
Very
posted
cool.
about previously. So yeah, we got some stuff coming.
We-
Air
little
Force,
darling.
Navy, that kind of stuff. All right.
Space
Oh,
Force,
cool. Yeah.
and everything in
Yeah.
between.
all of it.
Love you.
All those lights.
We love you, Jeff. Have a good night.
You too. Grab it, Savvy.
Okay. You got your beer?
I do.
Okay. Just make sure you got your beer to go.
Well,
Back to
if
the
you're just
anchor.
listening to audio,
Back to
what
the
just
anchor.
happened
Have
is
fun.
Thank you.
Jeff from the Jolt just hopped on because that's Savi's dad. So he hopped on and he has a really cool podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where he talks about not just UFOs and stuff like that. He also has like some paranormal stuff on there because he's done some ghost hunting as well. So he's definitely somebody to follow. I got a lot of links. I feel like anybody I talk to, I gotta like put in the description now because people are like, "Who's that? Who's that?"
Yeah, right. Who's this? Who's that? Who's that?
So
He's such a goofball. Okay, so what
now back to reptilian class.
Yes.
children.
So where we were, because this is the part I'm really interested in. Because
Okay.
this is one of the things I wanted to do on my YouTube channel was basically do a start to finish timeline. So,
Okay.
anyways, with the reptilians, so you said there's multiple types. You started
Yes.
off with the Draconians.
Yes.
And you said so far how they're pretty much the cold, emotionless one.
Right.
The majority of them were female, or the reptilians itself were female, like the majority of the reptilians.
Well, the leaders
That's where you
are
left off.
female. Oh,
The
yeah.
leaders.
So the leaders
Yeah.
are female. They were bigger, which is the case in nature, right? And not just with reptiles. Like we see, the females are bigger, and the men and the boy ones are usually prettier, like peacocks. But but females are often bigger, like especially with spiders and stuff like that. So they were bigger, and they kind of realized like they were just in charge. They were smarter, they were bigger, they were more powerful, and they kind of have like this fierce feminine energy. Not like so much the soft, like we have these different energies about us, and they can use them for good or evil. So that's what they're doing. They set, some people think that they used the genes of earth reptiles with their own to create like more hardy reptilians that could survive earth.
Isn't that what this? How did he call it on initiation? The Sophir?
Is that what it was?
I think that's what he called them. Those were the reptile beings that walked Earth
Right. And they
before
were
all
yeah.
the other civilizations. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I guess that it had a different name. I just put down Earth reptilian.
That's fine, because if anything, it helps pinpoint more like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
things are.
Yeah,
Everything's-
yeah. Exactly. Everything does connect at some point. So the Earth reptilians were kind of made from mixed genetics of these space Draconians and the Earth reptiles that were just kind of doing their thing through evolution, I guess. And the Earth reptilians tended to live in the caves away from humans. We're kind of here simultaneously with Atlantis. And they were kind of like sages back in the day before they started having their I guess like their lower vibrational or more negative vibrational or intentions coming through, or like their genetics, like genetic traits. We all know that things can get passed down, like temperament from animals and from even humans. Like if your dad had depression, or my dad had depression, or some sort of quirk about him, it kind of it's weird how some of that passes down even if you've never met them. So it's not always like a nurture. So these ones, though, the Earth reptilians were not all like the bloodthirsty, evil reptilian that we hear about today. They were the sages because they did have a lot of wisdom and things to offer. So it said they were kind of like in Iran area is where most of them were. And they kind of were similar, like they were almost like record keepers, but of the Earth, like the Earth history. and humans. So they kind of kept track of how we were evolving. And that's kind of weird because if you think about how, like, if the Draconians were part of what seeded us with the other star races, these were kind of like their little record keepers. And a lot of people revered them as gods in the ancient world. So a lot of ancient cultures have like snake and dragon wisdom keepers as gods. So some people are like, I'm not a reptilian starseed, they're all evil. But I kind of did put a mix of the traits that you might have if you are more recently reptilian, or integrating reptilian lives or ancestry. So these are the starseed traits for reptilian starseeds. Sensitive to light. They are wise, intelligent, and very analytical. If you prefer like warm weather, then you could be a reptilian. And cold all the time, kind of like a reptile, like you had to have a heat lamp type of thing. Persuasive, observant, and calculated. And again, that could be kind of used, for good or evil. Charismatic or witty, which, again, like all these things we can use to help or to tear down. Paranoid and skeptical. These are some of the lower vibrational traits. A little more fearful. Another low blood pressure, but not linked to medical conditions. And the Rh negative blood type is thought to link back to that as well. They're very proud. If you're very proud and you demand respect, and that means the most to you out of everything, this could be a trait coming through from that. And they like order. Like they don't like, they want things to be as they want them to be. And but the thing about them that's scary, but also good, is they read other people. They can read emotions even more than an empath can. But some people don't want to be starseeds from reptilians, but genetically, they think that we all are. But like soul-wise, you might have been associated with that in another lifetime.
And that's the thing too, for those of you listening, this stuff has been in existence for ever, millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, to the point where your souls have been recycled so many times that you could literally have more than one. Especially with talking about this, and especially after talking to Duncan and, growing up, I have a gravitation somehow towards dragons. So I'm trying to think how that can resonate towards me. So I'm curious where the dragon gods came from, because you kind of mentioned them, but I'm not sure how they web into the whole reptilian family.
I think that we had to remember that was it Alpha Draconis? It has more than one. It has more than one star family in it. So there's going to be Draconians that are not reptilian Draconian reptilians, or and then there's some that are different. They're just Draconians. So that's one that I didn't do a lot of research into, but I have heard a lot about it. People talking about that, and it comes through in Asian religion with like the dragons being so important to their culture and like their spirituality. So you might want to look into that, because I haven't really researched the non-reptilian Draconians. So that's something we can follow up on.
Draconians, yes. I'm gonna open that in the tab right now before I forget.
So we've only got a couple more to talk about. The last two. So this was the last one that I have notes on. One of the other ones, the notes wouldn't transfer, right? They turn into like this thing that looked like the Matrix like 3 times. So I don't know what I did wrong or what happened to it. The next one is Syrians, and we are all familiar with the star Sirius. It's the brightest star in the sky. It's a 3-star system, and the most outstanding in the night sky is Sirius A. The star had great importance to the ancients and had many names. Just a few being the dog star, the god star, the Nile star, the star of Isis, the Egyptian goddess, because some people were like, oh, you said Isis one time. I was like, not that one. Come on. The rain star, and so on.
There was an Isis before that Isis, people.
Yeah. Like people are so like mind in the gutter. I had a friend named Isis, and I thought it was a cool name because the Egyptian goddess, and this other person was like, yeah, but she's like named after terrorists. I'm like, She was born 30 years ago. Isis
Yes,
is a
the
fairly new
Romans.
thing, and it's also was an Egyptian goddess first. So
Yeah.
but it was kind of weird. So now I'm like, I better tell people that because I never even thought about that until somebody said it. So many theories exist when it comes to our origins being from extraterrestrial races. One attributes being from Sirius star system as being one of the 4 major races that had a hand in creating us. And these theories are all over the place. Some say all of them created us, and some say there was 4 main ones that created us. So that's kind of some research that is all over the place. These souls come from planets in Sirius A and Sirius B. Sirius A is the brightest star in your sky. Its original inhabitants came from Vega in the Lyra constellation, which is the supposed home of Earth ancestors. Sirius B is a smaller star and home to the water beings like the Mengu and Mer people and Lumeria. These 2 planets initiated the awakening of all human beings, is what one of the theories is. And it's also said that Sirius A gave us ascended masters like Jesus, Mother Mary, Buddha, the ascended masters. And they are diverse a species. They're just as diverse as us and can inhabit many diverse worlds. They're not just humanoid. People have seen the Syrians as many different things. The one thing I've heard a lot of people say in common is that when you are being visited by Syrians, it's kind of like a spirituality school. So if you go to their planet or to their realm, they're visiting you to help you grow with spiritual knowledge, which is what they think ascended masters kind of go to the Syrians and train, basically, and learn. If you are a Syrian star race or star descendant, you're highly intuitive. You are able to communicate telepathically. You find it clear to express clearly and verbally. You might stumble on your words a lot because if you were a Sirius Starseed latest, or you're integrating that star lineage now, then you didn't talk verbally. You did telepathy. You talked with your mind. So it's hard for them to kind of make words and speak clearly and speak loudly. They have a strong affinity for aquatic life. They're peaceful, but they're very strong-willed. They are going to be the true seekers, and they're more involved with their internal worlds than the external world. So these are kind of like your yogis or your gurus that hang out in a cave. Like they realize that the universe is also inwards, as much inwards as it is outwards. They work with the elements of nature, and they kind of resonate with mythical ones, mythical beings such as unicorns, chimera, and other Loch Ness monster. All the things that we think of, that all the what is the other word for them? Cryptids and stuff like that too. Cool. So not just it's not like a fantasy like unicorns and mermaids, but also like Bigfoot and Nessie. So they have deep interest in science and magic, and they navigate both. So they're not just nuts and bolts. They're not just like a magic person lost in woo-woo land. They are able to integrate both of them peacefully, and they just know how to do it. Some people can't see those two intermingling. They intermingle them. They are artists and creative geniuses as well, because the way they see the world is very different. They love to sit back and analyze people. So they're the people watchers as well. And they don't really have like a lot of friends. They're the people that kind of have like their core group, and they don't care about having a ton of friends in social life. They're usually into science fiction and fantasy. They're very protective of the underdog. And they're also, the magic people of the world, like the mystics, the healers, shamans, witches, spiritualists of the world.
Isn't it also true that when it came to Syrians, that they were also practically kind of like the co-founders of Egypt, or the co-parents of Egypt? Because I know once Atlantis fell, some of those Atlanteans migrated towards Egypt, and that's why Egypt was as powerful as it is, as it was. But that the Syrians were one of the types of beings that came down to Egypt too. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. I forget if it's them or Orions or maybe more than one. because we already know how the 3 pyramids of Giza mimic the Orion's belt.
Right.
And there's a group of pyramids somewhere in Asia, I forget which country specifically, that mimics the Pleiadian. And then there's a group of pyramids in South America that mimic the Syrian constellation.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that it's like, and that's another thing that further proves
that would tie into like the 4 race theory, like the 4 races that created us.
Yeah, the
So,
4 common
makes a lot
of
sense.
Syrian, Orion, Pleiadian, and Arcturian. Yeah, those are the
Mhm.
4
Don't
common.
forget Reptilian. I know Reptilian,
Yeah,
people don't want
common.
it, but it's definitely there.
They're definitely one of the backbones to this planet for damn sure.
Yes,
Like,
and
they're practically
just-
the reason why all of the beings came to be, especially when Lyra was destroyed, because Lyra pretty much migrated to Syrian and Andromedan or Arcturian, and it just spread from there. So
right. Yeah, that's true, because it started in Lyra. Lyra and Reptilians were kind of the ones that kind of started all the other. I feel like the Andromedans were kind of in the background, but some did migrate there too. But yeah, the Atlantis thing is messy because they say like that Lemurian kind of fell. Some people say like it was Lemuria, Atlantis, Sumeria, but some people say that Lemuria was here first and then Atlantis, and they coexisted for a while before everything fell apart, basically.
Yep.
And a lot of them went to Egypt and Sumeria.
Yep.
Now we look at Sumeria with the Anunnaki, and a lot of people associate that with reptilians. So maybe some of the Orions went there, and then some went to Egypt because those are the 2 older civilizations.
It's interesting how, like, if you compare all the civilizations, you can just kind of pick out what parts are Orion, what parts are Reptilian, what parts are Syrian, what parts are Arcturian. Like, there's a little bit of everything. It's so interesting.
Right.
It's
And
wild.
that brings us to our next one. And I'm going to be reading from here because I try to email so I printed out my notes. These notes have been a pain in the butt to keep. So I printed them out and I had them down here. And I don't know if one of the kids grabbed them or somebody else, like my husband, grabbed them, because I couldn't find them anywhere. I found like everything but, these notes. So I'm like, oh, well, I have them on my phone because I started doing the bullet points on my phone because I'm a mom. So I kind of do things where I can, and my phone's like there all the time, right? So I do my notes on my phone and then I print them out usually. So so at last minute, I email all my notes back to myself to put them in a Word document before we come on here tonight. And every time I tried to like email the Orion ones, and it's from the same thing. It's from notes. Like they all were fine. These ones came up like looking like the Matrix.
Her reaction was great, by the way.
I was just like, what?
And you're like, I'm doing this again. 3 times later, it's
I
still
tried
not
to email
working.
it 3 times. I took pictures out. I took links out just in case. And it kept coming up like...
It's probably like that one Word doc format that's like hieroglyphics or something like that.
No,
right?
it's not. It's real letters. It just looks like the Matrix, but with real letters and exclamation points and stuff like that. I'm just like, why is it doing this? Because I took all the links out. I took the pictures out. And it's on notes. All my notes are on notes. So I don't know why it would be weird. But
Orion's want to remain in secret. I swear, because that's the one I can't find info of is Orion.
Well, I have a lot
like,
here.
Pricilla, don't talk about us.
It doesn't want me to like email it to me. So yeah, I'll have to post the picture of what happened to it because it's like it's not wingdings. I know what you're talking about. It's real letters and symbols. It's like it's just gibberish that looks like alphabet matrix and alphabet symbols, numbers, all of it. So I have them here. And me and Savi were like, wait, but we want to talk about Orion because everybody loves Orion. It's like the coolest constellation, and a lot of people's experiences that I've met with extraterrestrials, non-human intelligences, for the big umbrella term, and sightings kind of have like an Orion connection. Like either they'll be like for me, the first time I saw UFOs was I was looking at Orion, and then a lot of my experiences later ended up involving Orion in one way or another. So obviously, they come from the Orion people, or beings come from the Orion Constellation. And the Orion Nebula specifically is said to be a cosmic gateway where angels and source energy and all the high vibrational beings come from. So that is the gateway to God, essentially.
Yep.
Or source, or cosmic cookie for you agnostic people. This is said to be the only portal to the highest dimensions in which everyone's soul came from, as well as other portals. Scientists observed light being emitted from this nebula, and some think that this is a wave of light codes and upgrades headed towards Earth. But we can get back to that another time because that's a whole nother crazy cookie to crack, I guess, the light code thing. The Belt of Orion was revered in ancient Egypt as a symbol of Osiris. The three main pyramids of Giza align with these three stars, and people think that that is kind of creating a gateway to heaven, or the higher vibrational other side. I don't know how to say this to include everybody's beliefs. So to the great beyond, like on that movie Soul. Like the
That was
Disney
a good
movie.
movie. Aw.
It was such a cute movie. So the Orions have a lot of different species. So they kind of have like those mean looking Nordic types. They have the Reptilians. There's a little bit of everybody there because supposedly there's this intergalactic war being fought at this gateway, because who doesn't want to cross over and take charge of source energy? So
I want to know Reptilians.
and this is where the Greys and the Reptilians come into play. So supposedly they're joining some sort of antagonistic empire against the light. They're kind of like Darth Vader. Some believe that the battle of light and dark, good and evil, are being fought over access to this galactic gateway of Orion.
Yep.
It, like many other star systems, has a mix of races, because this is kind of like that, it's where everybody is because of that portal, that gateway, the Orion Nebula. So the mission for Orion beings is mixed. It's not just light, it's not just dark, but this is kind of where people thought that duality originated because of this fight. Like the classic battle of good and evil kind of started by the Orion Nebula, because every star race was there trying to either protect or take over this part of the nebula, or the nebula, the gateway. Orion beings have the reputation of being ruthless and emotionless warriors. Kind of like, have you seen, you know what it makes me think of? If you've seen, what is that show? The Expanse. The Belters on The Expanse. They're kind of like nomads. They're kind of like rough and tough. That's what it makes me think of. They started many conflicts, often playing, the antagonist, because the people from Orion they're not there for love and light. They're there to protect, or to, offense, defense, basically. But the masculine side has a logical and intellectual side, because so some of this is needed with the people fighting the good fight, protecting the source portal, or Orion. Syrians and Pleiadians carry the feminine, and there's more masculine. The more masculine types are in Orion, kind of having this warfare, I guess. There is supposedly called something Orion light consciousness, meaning that they have a main mission of like teaching systems, government, business, and industry, but there's a balance. So the overall consciousness of the Orion consciousness, from what I understand, I couldn't find a lot on it, but I found it a couple ways. The Orion consciousness is supposedly a point where harmony is going to happen between masculine and feminine energy, from what I understand. So it's like that balancing out. So that's kind of like what the good fight is for. Like, we understand that we need masculine and feminine. We need the polarity and the duality of the universe, but we also need it to chill out and be evil. So that's what people talk about Christ consciousness. Well, there's Orion light consciousness as well, where Christ consciousness is like interconnectedness and love, and Orion is just like the balance of the two. So that's what I understand from it. Somebody can write me if I'm wrong. They also have a council called Orion Light Council that oversee access to Akashic realms, Elohim consciousness, and access to the great mysteries. And most importantly, this council is really trying to protect the Orion portal. They have the ability to join consciousness and see as one eye. So when you get to this whole Orion consciousness and you are in unison with the council, you join that unity consciousness and kind of make like a big team, a big one, like it says one eye. So everybody sees everything, and it's like the perfect army if you think about it. And an army doesn't always have to be bad. So, but I guess throughout history it has been. But you know what I mean? Like it's a group of people that can see things or beings that can see. It's like that intergalactic. It's a unity consciousness, but without just being like the love and light. Because I know like a lot of unity consciousness people are like love and light only. Well, this Orion one is both, but equal. So they bring laws directly from source and from the portal, and are one of the highest councils along with Andromedan Council. The Andromeda Council is the order and like regulations of the universe, and Orion is the spiritual order. So they both kind of play their role. Like one is more like these are the rules and regulations of the physical universe, and the other one is like these are the spiritual rules and regulations of the universe. And so a lot of Orion starseed traits are, so you might be an Orion if you have a muscular physique and you're physically strong. A lot of them are, I'm like, not me, I'm not buff and
I'm not buff, but I'm definitely masculine energetically.
So muscular physique and physically strong and powerful. You have an attractive and magnetic personality, logical, intellectual, and analytical. A lot of these people are tomboys or play a lot of sports, live very active lifestyles. People that speak their mind and they're not afraid to express opinions, popular or not. The ruling chakra for them, and I need to go back and find the ruling chakra for all of them because I felt like I only found it for some. And maybe with our wisdom combined, we'll figure it out. So Orion is solar plexus, because again, the Orion people, or the many races that inhabit the Orion area, are warriors. So you have to have that power center in your solar plexus. They do like to seek evidence and quantitative proof before buying into a belief system. So if you're curious about stuff like this or spirituality, you still kind of want a little evidence before you buy into it, which is kind of like, most people.
Yeah.
But this is just like a make or break. Like if you don't show me something that I can tangibly grasp, I'm not going to believe in your crap. They tend to be perfectionists. Yeah. So the perfectionist to a fault, not just like you want to do, everybody wants to do everything well. But these are the people that are competitive, which plays into like the sports and the warrior mentality.
And they won't stop till it's exactly as they pictured. Trust me.
Exactly.
Because this is part of me. Yeah. So I'm like, yep. Minus the activeness. I'm not active, but
you're like, I'm not active, but I'm just powerful. So they need alone time to recharge. Like these are the people that if they don't have alone time, they're gonna rip somebody's throat out. Yeah. Just like the people that are like, they're not in the mood. They're not in the mood. They're the people that when you get in a fight, you're like, just leave me alone. Just give me a minute. I need, that kind of person. Yeah. So, and they tend to want to know multiple trades and subjects. They're not just good at one thing. You can't put them in a box, which is very much what they say about the Orion star system and the beings that inhabit it, because there's somebody there because of that source gateway. And the grays kind of play into that. So this is the one that I didn't have notes on. So we can talk about the grays that are thought to be, in many cases, like the ones that are kind of the ones that people experience when they're abducted.
It seems to be like a very common one too.
Yes.
It's weird. Mm-hmm. It's really weird.
And people think that they are almost like drones, like worker bees.
Like henchmen or something.
Yep. And they're just doing like what they do. They're taking genetic samples from us and doing the things that they're being told to do. Some people think that they are genetically engineered from the Draco reptilians. Ooh. But there's also other kinds of grays. So there's the little grays that are like toddler size that are supposed to be just kind of like playful and just like kind of like pop in and out, like more curious, like childlike curiosity. But the ones that abduct you are more like 5 feet, like my height. I'm so short. I'm a gray. But they are supposed to be like so like we have like the geneticists, right? Like the master engineers, genetic engineers, and then we've got the lab guys that are the grays. They're just like take the samples, lab technicians, phlebotomists, of the universe. And they analyze it. They don't necessarily analyze it, but they do collect it. So like when you go to a lab, they're those guys, except for the lab comes to you, I guess, unfortunately.
The lab comes to you. Don't worry about anal probing. We'll be right there. No need to do anything. We'll do all the work
Don't
for
worry.
you.
It's just my job. I'm just doing my
First
job.
episode of South Park, right? First episode of
Oh
South
my God,
Park.
yeah.
Cartman gets anal probed, literally.
Oh, Cartman.
Oh, I am seeing the chat just now to answer someone's question. Yes, we are talking about Orion Starseeds.
Yes. I knew this was going to be a long one too, because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, especially with Orion. Actually, I might as well butt in with what I have so far.
Yeah.
So it's really wild because, you know, when I first went through this, I'm just like, are they calling me out? Because this is literally me. But yeah, the Orion Constellation tend to be towards the life path numbers of 4, 8, and 22. I'm personally at 22. The best crystals for them are red jasper, moldavite, and fluorite. But they are pretty much the ones that ask why to everything, or how come this is that way, and blah, blah, blah. Like, they question every bit of detail that they pretty much can. They will try to create living beings on Earth who are base-minded, and they are obsessed with science and research, hence the Greys, potentially.
Right.
But sadly, they lack understanding of their hearts. Since their solar plexus is more strong, maybe their heart is their weakness. But going back, how tall is Pricilla? 5 foot. She's a Gray. We just went over this.
5 foot.
You missed
girl,
it.
buddy.
She's a 5 foot Gray.
I'm bite size, fun size. I don't know.
Where was I? Oh, so yeah. For knowing about the chakras that are keen, strongest with each one, I know Arcturians are strong in their hearts, just like Pleiadians.
Right.
So for those of you that needed to know that, just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, so they lack understanding of their hearts. Their mission on Earth is to help improve our understanding of the value of science, as well as many other ones, but that's tends to be a big one. Their spiritual mission is to learn from humanoids and how to be more trusting and faithful, which is very hard. Like for me, I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, I guess this is just my moody self being in college at the time, but just seeing modern society and the typical trends and challenges they do, it's like, why are you doing that?
Right.
It's like I hope I'm not the only one, and I'm not trying to
You're not the only one,
but I'm just
like, literally been like, these damn humans. I'm like,
yeah, I'm just like, you humans, like, who are you? Just, oh my gosh. But their spiritual mission, yes, to learn from the humanoids how to be more trusting and faithful. Some of them have spiritual aspirations, while others are agents for the Reptilians. And that's where I'm like, I don't know where I am with the Orion aspect. I'm gonna have to ask Duncan. As far as I know, I'm more of a masculine Orion energy, and I do for sure have
bad. You could be like a warrior, but like on the defensive, like a good side. You know,
I don't know.
People seem like sleazy. I feel like the Reptilian people seem sleazy sometimes. I don't really know.
Right?
I think I'm that one, but
especially since my love for dragons, and I literally have a dragon belly ring on right now as we speak. It's just like kind of interesting how all of these beings just like collide together. But not just that. So yeah, basically Orion's like the cantina of so many races, because so many places have gone there aside from the light console. I also heard, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that not just Orions and some Reptilians, but even Pleiadians and Arcturians and Andromedans and Syrians, like sometimes they'll pop in through there to be part of that light council too. And yeah, it is a big portal. It's supposedly just,
it's like a hub, right? Like
it's a hub.
I picture it like that bar on Star Wars where there's all these different races,
the cantina. It's literally just like that. Except we don't have some ugly Jabba the Hutt. We got some other crazy shit instead.
We have some Jabba the Hutts in the world.
Yeah, but also apparently Zeta Reticuli, which is apparently, according to Bob Lazar, going back to the Greys. That's why I'm trying to tie this in here.
Good, because I didn't have a lot of Grey notes. So
no, you're fine. But I hope you've seen that. And if any of you have seen it, the Bob Lazar documentary, very, very well done. But anyway, so how he mentioned that the Greys are from Zeta Reticuli. Supposedly, that star, from our perspective, is also part of the Orion Constellation.
Did Betty and Barney Hill also mention or describe that? Okay.
Zeta, they did. And for me in particular, and that's why like I'm throwing this out there, because in case anybody happens to have some Orion tendencies, I always had a subconscious.
Telling you and your Orion.
I don't know, because I still feel lost too. So I'm like, I'm trying to find people. Let's figure this out. But I always had a subconscious fear of the Greys.
Same here. Yeah.
And I never understood why. And I mentioned this to you when you and I talked last week, but anytime I would mention aliens, and this was at a young age, like when I first saw E.T. and he had me crying because
Oh,
he was scary looking as a kid. Just anytime talking about aliens or ghosts or the paranormal always made me cry. I guess just because we knew deep down intuitively it was true. But I don't know if maybe I had some crazy experiences in my past life with the Greys. It's just weird how apparently for Orions that they have that relation too, that whether it's a fear or they have flashbacks of working with them, like
right.
they will just have some kind of experience with them. I have to talk to Duncan to see what he says because it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
were murdered by a Grey. I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. But they also for Orions, the I don't give a F attitude,
Right.
perfectionists. Just as an example, with
Right.
me in school or doing any of my projects, I'm OCD as heck. It has to be my way or I'm not turning it in. They act like know-it-alls because they spend their time researching a lot. As you mentioned before, they love to dive into the unknown. They are judgmental of others. I'm guilty of that, but I've definitely been better now since COVID. That they are judgmental of others because they expect perfection from them, that they expect them to do better, and other people don't live up to basically their expectations, so they just get you stupid people, like that one stood out to me. I was like, well, that's very, very wow. But yeah, so anyway, so the Greys, where do we start
Definitely
with this?
key, like to the hybridization program. I've noticed a lot of people that think that they're in the hybridization program have like um, have gray experiences. I also didn't, but the thing about the grays when I kind of said F it to the grays for a minute when I was doing this research because I've had a lot of trauma revolving around them. Now I can see them and go to bed. Now I can do not like they're not like hanging out right now, but you know what I mean. Like I'm not like before. If I even saw like the emoji gray if the emoji gray existed when I was little, I wouldn't be able to sleep after seeing it. Now I'm like sending it left and right. I'm like, oh my god, I hope I don't trigger anybody. But like to me, I feel like they didn't have like a home base. Do you know what I mean? Like we know the Lyrans are from Lyra, and you know these guys are from here, we're from here, kind of thing. But the Greys just sort of they don't seem like they're an old species,
Mm-hmm.
and they are to me they are just like the ones that I've experienced and kind of like heard about the most. Maybe because I talk to a lot of females, but are part of this hybridization scenario. So, and it does make sense to me that they might be some sort of genetically engineered type thing or an AI even because they don't really, they kind of have, people have described them with having like the dead eyes and just kind of being there, very methodical, very just precision. Like there's not a lot to them. So there's that, but before with you know the abduction scenario. So to me, they definitely scream like we're part of the hybridization program. You know,
Basically, yeah.
hi,
Between
I'm a gray,
Travis
and I'm here
Walton
to
and
take
other,
your.
so many.
I'm here to
It's
harvest
scary.
your genetics. Yeah. So that's what I get from them. There are like there's the tall grays that are supposed to be super scary. Like I've had dreams about them. They're like the big mean looking ones. So I don't know what those are all about. And I really don't need to know what they're about. But it'd be interesting to find out more. It's hard to find information on the grays, honestly.
Because all that
Um,
stuff's locked up.
yep. Yeah. They're probably some weirdness. Oh, what did I press? Something happened. I'm sorry. Sorry, I pressed something and the screen like popped up and went away. Yay, Lily's 5 feet tall too. I love you. All my little shorties out there with me. So so yeah, and then there's the small ones that are playful. Like one of my experiences was of a small one in the forest when I was younger. So uh it just ran away. It turned into a little boy and ran away. So to me, that was kind of playful. I wasn't afraid of that one, but I was definitely startled by it. Like I was afraid, but not in fear of like how I was with the other grays, if that makes any sense. But Brad says that they seem to be an engineered worker race, which I've heard. So,
Yep.
and it does make a lot of sense because we don't really see.
Like we don't really see a lot of the other beings. We mainly see the Greys.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, we have some documentation of like the Pleiadian, Syrians, etc. But when it comes to abduction cases or any kind of experiences, a lot of people mention the Greys. It's really messed up because they're freaking creepy too. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah, they're always the ones with their little heads popping up in the window. Big heads, I guess. My husband's like, that's like his irrational fear. He's like, he doesn't really like buy into a lot of this, but he will close the blinds if it's dark outside.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I want to see is a little fat alien head popping,
just peeking through my window. Same.
I joke. I'm like, if a gray appears next to my bed and it's a small one, I'll probably think it's one of my fathead toddlers and just throw him in the bed with me and cuddle him. And that thing will never come back because the gray will have experienced a snuggle.
Like, I don't know what this is.
It snuggled me. Like, it was the one that felt violated after coming into my bed. Because that's what little toddlers look like. They're just like little bodies and big heads. Like, you just see them at nighttime. Anyways, guys, I don't really snuggle grays, but I'm just saying it's like a funny thing in my head that I can see happening.
Someone get Pricilla a gray doll for her birthday.
I have one. So I have like one of the more like big-headed, like oh gosh, is it Syrian gray type? Like the Syrians also kind of have like big, or the Arcturians that are depicted with like the big heads too, but like
yeah, both of them. I think.
Yeah, my husband's mom gave me one, so that's next to my bed, next to my Yankee candle.
Yankee Doodle, light and cleanse this gray.
Well, that's what you gotta do. You gotta set the mood in your room with some crystals, some alien statues, and some cheap ass candles.
Protection. So we don't need some Annabelle shit happening now, right?
Oh god, no! I don't mess around with dolls. There's no dolls.
Me
that's the only reason I had boys is because I don't want dolls in the house because I'm afraid they're gonna come alive and like kill me.
Especially porcelain ones, yeah. Like,
oh hell no!
No! I don't care how old it is.
Nightmares.
It's out of my
nightmares
house.
of dolls. Like
I'm good.
I can't do it. Like I'm so happy. That's the only reason I'm happy I don't have a little girl. Like the little boys bring dinosaurs and stuff like that. They're into robots. I'm not saying girls can't be into robots. Nobody jumped down my throat, but none of my sons has really taken a liking to dolls yet. So, and if they did, it cannot be a porcelain one.
Yeah, no porcelain dolls.
Yeah, I had a friend that had like, this is absolutely offside. I had a friend that she had like all these porcelain dolls like lining the top of her room. And I didn't know that till like the first time I stayed over. And I did not sleep because I was like, one of these little dolls is going to come alive and start biting me in my sleep or something.
It's going to start choking you. Yeah.
Oh, well,
I would have been like,
her mom's like, oh, some of these have been passed down to the family. I'm like, those are the most haunted ones.
You literally,
like,
great Aunt Nina's in there.
Like, that's how you get a poltergeist, guys.
Yeah, no, we're good. We don't need any of that stuff.
All right. Anyways, guys, next episode will be about poltergeists.
And other crazy things.
And other paranormal fun. So, let's do some questions.
Yeah.
Unless you have more to add about the grades. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, even if anybody knows anything, like let's talk about this because I'm like,
somebody had asked if there's going to be like a written up version of this. I plan on getting her of Savi's notes and making like a master alien note.
Master, yeah.
The master Starseed note. So maybe we can do that.
With my 15 pages plus your 15 pages, let's go.
We've got an ebook, guys.
Literally, we got a mini ebook for free.
For free, yeah. Star Races for free. That's going to be what it's called. So, yeah, if you have any information on the Greys or the Draconian star races, I would really like to hear about them.
Yeah, especially Draconian.
All right, so I'm going to go back and find a question. So I'll just go from the bottom up.
Who's Duncan?
Duncan is so his name is Duncan Alexander. I'm going to put his information and I'll actually send you his link because I think you would like him, Laura. He talks about ascension energies, the Schumann resonance, and starseed lineages. He does readings as well. He actually told me last year that I was going to be actually at the beginning of 2021, he told me that I was going to be talking about this stuff publicly, which I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm the same person that when I had to take a public speaking class, it literally sounded like I swallowed a vibrator the first time I had to talk in front of the class. I sounded like a baby goat that swallowed a vibrator. So I was like, I am not talking in front of people, sir. So here I am. And I was like, why do I have a podcast? I'm just doing it. But I'm fine now, obviously. I didn't swallow. I don't sound like that now, but at least I don't think I do. Please tell me if I do. So yeah, we answered the how tall is Pricilla. We were talking about Orion.
How tall is Pricilla? That one's
We've
too
got our
funny.
shorties. Benji wants to know where his 6 feet up people are, whereas all the tall people
Arcturians.
give a I don't even know what emoji you can give for a tall person. So I saw some other questions earlier. So keep adding your questions if you have them. I don't see any more. Okay. How do starseeds and hybrids relate, compare? So I will say that starseed is more of like a soul lineage, whereas hybrids are actual genetic, actual physical genetics, is what I would say. And then if you talk to some people, we're all hybrids. And if you believe in past lives, we're probably all starseeds. So, Savi, what would you add to that? Or
honestly, I would agree with you 100% on that, because at the end of the day, what we're calling starseeds and hybrids could literally just change tomorrow. But I would agree, like how starseeds are definitely more solar energetic, like what you feel, rather than hybrids is like concrete genetic stuff. Yes, I would definitely agree with that.
which we don't know anything about our own genetics. If we think about it, we're like, we've mapped our genome, we've mapped it, but we don't know what it does. We don't know what a lot of it does. So
yeah, and not just that. I think I forgot where I saw this, but there was a study that basically looked at how old our DNA is compared to how old Earth is. No, how old documented human civilization is. So let's say human civilization has existed for what? Let's just throw out there and say 500,000 years. They found that the DNA was an extra million years on top of that, aka our DNA comes from somewhere that's older than documented man on this planet.
That's freaking
I think
sweet.
that's interesting too. I'm like, yeah, what do you think it is?
Yeah, that's awesome. Somebody asked earlier about fae and fairies, and I definitely and this is going to sound even crazier. People that are listening to this and be like, "Oh, I didn't realize Priscilla was so crazy." I also taught a class on fairies and gnomes last year. So Paranormal Pixie actually asked that about some like light being type things. And yeah, so a lot of people that see fairies and pixies and fae do see them as light. And a lot of people think that they're interdimensional. So could they also be some of the orbs that we're seeing floating around that are kind of like smaller and not necessarily coming from the sky, like the orbs that people see in the forest or over graveyards or just floating around their house sometimes or when they're meditating? So yeah, I think that there's definitely a connection between these light beings such as the Pleiadians and angels and possibly even fairies. So
Yeah.
and I never thought I'd be saying fairies so seriously, but after teaching last year, after living in Alaska, I had some weird experiences in the forest. So I was like, maybe fairies are real. Like those Alaskan fairies will convince you.
I still want to go to Alaska. Let's go see some fairies.
Oh my gosh, Alaska. I'm mad that I didn't do more UFO stuff there. I was so I was doing the whole molecular biology. I had a virology internship. I was doing little student travel grants. I was getting those to go talk about like research and I just didn't have time for cool things. I think I did a little ghost hunting in one of the ghost towns there, but it wasn't like as serious as I would be about it now. You know what I mean? It was just like, let's go see if we can experience anything or see anything, that kind of thing. I did have an orb situation in Alaska. And I had more of like paranormal, like spiritual, like human spirit situations in Alaska versus extraterrestrial. But the one thing that did the orb thing was definitely strange because it was like the orbs that I saw when I was little, but next to my window. And I thought that it was the full moon, which is stupid because it was right up on my window.
Hey!
I woke up, it's just like, I'm full tonight. It's like
Forget abduction lights. The moon just came to your window.
Well, I started waking up. I was like, oh my gosh, that's really bright moon. And then I was like, that's not a moon, it's an orb. And then it put me to sleep. It was super weird.
Pricilla, that's not a moon.
That's not a moon. Oh man. All right. So we have a Brad question. Is reincarnation a natural process, or is it technologically mediated by some higher intelligences?
See, that's tough.
That's a good question.
I think reincarnation. Reincantina, what? Katrina. Okay, so reincarnation. I think personally that we do reincarnate over and over and that it is a natural process. However, that doesn't mean that we're going to be right here on Earth as a human in our next life. Right. Now, I think it's a mix of both, that it's also controlled by something higher power. And for example, that could just mean you're on Earth right now. You got to learn whatever your lessons are, whatever you have to understand on this Earth during this time at this dimension in order for you to move on to other dimensions, whether 4, 6, 12th dimension, whatever. Now, whether you do move on or not, I think that is in control of these higher intelligent beings. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. I cannot talk tonight. So I think it's a mix of both. Like, we are in reincarnating all the time, but I think where we go next is definitely depicted by a higher intelligence of some kind. Absolutely. But we won't know until science dives more into it, and it's such a slow process.
Because we're not even there. Reincarnation, I do believe it's natural. I am also of the camp of the whole soul contract thing. So, and it plays in with I believe in the whole karmic debt thing, and that causes us to lead lessons. So our reincarnation is all over the place, and it could be both. It could be that your soul contract says that another technology is going to mediate your, it's reincarnation is one of those things that is believed by so many people. And the only kind of continuity that I've found between it is some sort of record, like Akashic record, or just like your life records, or, people, the Akash is just the records of your soul throughout space and time, the record of everything that's ever happened to anybody throughout all existences and dimensions. So I love the past life thing, but there is a lot of questions around it, which we could totally, I've been trying to get somebody on that does the past life regressions. So I'm talking to somebody right now, but I think that'd be a cool thing to talk about and ask them, because they've seen so many people, they've seen them through so many different regressions that they know more than me, because I get the people that I know telling me stuff like, oh, I dreamt about this era and this and that, but I haven't actually met a past life regressionist and really picked their brain about stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys,
I was actually going to add to that. I don't remember where I saw this video, but the fact that some kids can literally just talk about their previous life to the point where it's they're at a certain point in age where it's they can't make that stuff up. I saw one recently, and I think it was a TikTok of a young boy claiming that he was a cartographer in his previous life. He was so into maps, this 3 or 4-year-old little boy. And then he just recalls basically sinking in quicksand, and then he was here. And it's kids can't make that up. It's assuming his mom doesn't just throw him to a screen. I honestly believe that reincarnation is real, yes. And not just that, but the basic principle that I brought up earlier, that energy is neither created or destroyed. It's transformed or changed from one form to another.
Why would that be different with our soul or our consciousness?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that stuff is always recycled. It's all connected. It's a huge freaking web. Even the fact of what George Lucas and the whole Star Wars story, that came from somewhere. All of the thoughts we have, we don't make that up. All the inventions are not made up. They all come from a cloud of knowledge, and certain people basically, quote unquote, download those inventions and bring them to life. And that's why I'm Star Wars and Harry Potter are more practical than we think they actually do. It's that story of light and dark, literally, as you said, Vader. All of that actually existed millions of years ago in other dimensions. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. So, reincarnation's freaking real. It definitely is.
Ooh, well, maybe we can do a reincarnation talk on your channel or later on too, because it's definitely a topic that we could talk about a lot, because a lot of people are interested in it. A lot of people experience flashes of past lives. A lot of people have these weird like knowledge that why do they have that this lifetime, or fears even.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that would be another fun thing to talk about in the future. But we are just over 2 hours. We could totally hang out all night, but it is getting late, and I have sick little child again. It's like they get better, and then my husband brings something else home from work, and then everybody gets sick again. So that's where we are in this house. Everyone's sick.
Everyone do a little prayer for Priscilla's kids.
I'm good right now, guys. Like, I am not going to get sick this time. I've had they can stay sick. I'll sleep down here.
They can stay sick.
No, I don't want them to stay. You know what I mean. I'm just going to stay away from them. But it's hard because like babies and husbands don't care. They want to like be all over you even if they're sick. And I'm just like, you're snotty. You're sick.
You got mucus coming out of your nose.
Yeah. Could you not kiss me?
It hasn't felt like 2 hours. It went by pretty quick.
Yeah, it was fun. And thank you to everybody. So Savi, hang out after. Don't like disappear. And
no, definitely.
I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat that is here, was here, and will be listening to this later. Whether you're listening on that UFO podcast website, which will later on, all the podcasts that are featured there will be on something else later on, but they're there for now. So if you're listening there, thank you so much. This definitely was a in-depth and strange thing to talk about for some people, but I get a lot of questions about it. So thank you if you hung out this whole time. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up and a like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff. Share with your friends if they're into the weirdness. And also just thank you in general for being supportive. And I will see everybody, I think, on Friday on Alien Girls channel.
Oh,
so
I gotta see that. We just had another question. Lily, it says, have you noticed any changes in your physical body, mental, or in regards to discovering and developing new gifts, such as psychic gifts, talents, skills, etc., since learning about Starseeds? That is a tough one. I wouldn't say physical, but for me, I've definitely had a lot less energy. I would have to say because of the downloads I'm receiving. So if you feel like you're just freaking tired, that's normal. But everybody's different. Some people get migraines all the time. Me personally, I don't really have that. Some people don't have an appetite. That's happened to me, but everybody's different. It's like a vaccine. It's different for everybody, has many different outcomes. But I did want to say, yes, thank you for having me here, Pricilla, and thank you to the folks who were here today, definitely listening to this. And if anybody is willing to come check out my channel, I do want to bring Pricilla on my end to basically dive into more of her starseed origin. I want to interview multiple starseeds. So if anybody wants to help bring that knowledge together, definitely feel free to pop by. And
yes, I have your YouTube. So if you can't find her contact through her YouTube, you can follow her on Instagram. And if you can't find her at all, just make sure you let me know, because I do have your YouTube in the description. But if you want to send me any other links that you want me to add, I can do that too.
Oh, just YouTube's perfect. I just have YouTube and Instagram. Make it easy.
Okay. All right.
It was nice to meet everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, and I will see everyone next week, and before that in some cases. Have a great night or day.
Good night, guys.